Hi everyone, I am Merinelle Jane A, and this is a video lesson on literacy, language, and education. The topics for this video lesson are as follows. First is developing functional literacy, participatory approach, 21st century literacy skills and teaching resources, student-led learning or cooperative learning, inquiry-based classroom, collaborative activities, higher order thinking skills activities, and creative learning. For the first topic, let us first define what is functional literacy. Functional literacy refers to the practical skills set needed to read, write, and do math for real-life purposes so people can function effectively in their community. In other words, it is the capacity of a person to engage in activities in which literacy is required for effective function of his or her group and community, and also for enabling him or her to continue to use reading, writing, and calculation for his or her own and the community's development. Now let us talk about the kinds of functional literacy. First is media literacy. It is the ability to access, evaluate, and create messages through different types of media. Next is religious literacy. It is the ability to interpret religious scriptures and communicate with different faiths. Third is financial literacy. It is the ability to manage finances and make good decisions about money. Fourth is computer literacy. It is the ability to use computers. Fifth is legal literacy. It is the ability to comprehend laws so you are able to follow policies and legal procedures. Next is scientific literacy. Scientific literacy does not necessarily mean memorizing facts, rather, it's knowing how to conduct experiments and identify evidence that supports or contradicts preconceived beliefs or hypotheses. Next is health literacy. It is the ability to understand healthcare information, particularly for making medical decisions or lifestyle choices about nutrition, exercise, sleep, and other factors that affect physical and mental well-being. Last is civic literacy. It is the awareness of how government works as well as your rights and responsibilities as a citizen and voter. At schools, students should be taught how to write and present ideas, read and comprehend, solve real-world problems, and most importantly, socialize with others. Next to be discussed is the participatory approach. The participatory approach is defined as a teaching strategy that incorporates themes or content area that are of interest to the learners. The participatory approach is also a way of organizing the classroom that motivates the learners to participate in the act of teaching, a peer-based learning process. This approach changes the role of the teacher. Instead of giving instructions and then stepping back to allow students to work, the teacher works together with the students. This approach forces us to practice our micro-teaching skills as we help learners to accomplish the goals that we set. The participatory approach is a brainchild of Brazilian language educator Paulo Freire. Freire is the author of the book Pedagogy of the Oppressed. Many researchers have also referred to this method as the Freirean approach to language literacy education. The goal of this method is to use language learning as a tool to provide solutions to social problems that impact learners in their daily lives. A classroom using a participatory approach is different from many teacher-fronted classrooms that have been typical in language learning setting. The participatory approach, throughout the concept of Freire, opposes the old banking method of teaching where the teacher acts as depositor of information and students as recipients. This time, we will talk about the 21st century literacy skills and teaching resources. As teachers in this generation, we should be able to look at our practice and adapt based on the needs of the students and learn new teaching resources. First to be tackled is a student-led learning or cooperative learning. Student or peer-led learning is where students themselves facilitate their learning. often the students in a year above, guiding students in group activities to discuss materials with their peers and solve problems. It steps away from outdated one-size-fits-all model and embraces the personalized learning ethos by helping students discover their own potential, encouraging learning through trial and error, and reducing the negative connotations imbued with mistakes, developing independent and critical thinking and problem-solving skills, and increasing engagement in the classroom. Student-led learning indeed encourages greater autonomy and helps ease student transition from the classroom to life after school. Now, how do we create a student-led classroom? First is rearrange the classroom. This could involve arranging the layout of tables and chairs, but could also involve softer touches such as display boards and posters that motivates the class and highlight key learning areas for the term. Next is develop self-awareness. Flexible learning environments can also support students in developing their confidence, as this approach naturally lends itself to more peer group and collaborative learning activities. Third is use individualized learning applications. With the support of individualized learning applications, this self-awareness can be further built upon through instantaneous feedback loops and reinforced learning. Fourth is aim for conceptual understanding. Students should focus their learning on underlying concepts other than simply memorizing facts, as this deeper understanding will invite more diverse and cross-cultural applications. Fifth and last is encourage reflection. A useful way of developing critical reflections is by encouraging students to keep a class journal as part of their homework routine. This can help them maintain and analyze their progress towards achieving their goals and can also inspire students to push themselves further. Let us now talk about inquiry-based learning. What is inquiry-based learning? Inquiry-based learning is a method of instruction that places the student, the subject, and their interaction at the center of the learning experience. At the same time, it transforms the role of the teacher from that of dispensing knowledge to one of facilitating learning. It repositions him or her physically from the front and center of the classroom to some place in the middle or the back of it, as it subtly yet significantly increases his or her involvement in the thought process of the student. Inquiry-based learning is said to have 4 goals. First is get students to share their thinking. Second, help students to orient and engage in others' thinking. Next, help students deepen their thinking. And last, build on and extend students' ideas. For goal number 1, creating a classroom environment where students feel safe to express their thinking is a challenge and not always easy to achieve. But research grounded in practice has revealed various prompts that can help realize this goal. Dave, I know you haven't finished the problem, but tell us your initial thinking. Take your time, we are not in a rush. These and similar talk moves are productive for eliciting students' thinking because they clearly communicate the expectation that students share their ideas rather than but be completely correct. The second goal tells us to help students to orient to and engage in others' thinking. Instructor prompts that can help achieve this goal often makes use of questions that we do not normally use in everyday conversation, yet talk moves such as the ones below can be quite effective in promoting student discourse. Who can repeat in their own words what Juan just said? Do you agree with what Darrell just said? These types of talk moves encourage other students to revoice the thinking of their classmates. Sometimes, student revoicing leads to a different conclusion or justification and thus creates an opportunity for a broader debate among multiple students. The third goal states, help students deepen their thinking. Most students are not skilled at pushing to deepen their own reasoning or that of their classmates. Therefore, a key role of the instructor is to continuously and skillfully press students for reasoning, explanation, and justification. Instructors can help achieve this by using the following prompt. How can we check to make sure this is correct? Can anyone come up with a different way to explain that? Instructors For the last goal, IDL class discussions are opportunities for the students to report on the progress they have made working individually, by pairs, or in small groups on challenging problems. Using the following instructor moves are some ways in which instructors can build on and extend student work. The last goal is to build on and extend students' ideas. This means an instructor should restate a student's explanation and attribute authorship to the student. The four goals discussed here provide some insight into what an instructor can do to realize the student-focused pillars of deep engagement in collaboration. The next topic is collaborative activity. These are any activities where learners are working cooperatively in pairs or groups. It is a situation in which two people or more people learn to attempt to learn something together. Unlike individual learning, people engaged in collaborative learning capitalize on one another's resources and skill. Here are some examples of collaborative activities. Snowballing. Learners discuss something or investigate an issue in pairs. The pairs then join another pair to form a group and share their findings. The small groups then join together to make a larger group, 2, 4, 8, 16, to the whole class. Another example is the famous role play or drama. The use of drama and role play can create an opportunity for the learner to hear and rehearse language in a meaningful context so as to be able to use it confidently in speech or writing. Next is immersive games. Games such as The Room 2 and Amazon feature a rich mystery-based storyline with a variety of textual sources such as letters, codes, and journals. Players are encouraged to interact with the text as they reveal clues to solving puzzles and provide a backstory to events and characters that enhance the overall narrative. Next is a barrier game. In a barrier game, learner A and learner B set with a barrier between them and are required to convey information to each other. For example, while looking at a different text or images, a book or file propped on its side can be used as a barrier. For example, Charles Dickens' barrier game. Next to be tackled is the higher order thinking skills activity. Higher order thinking skills are a series of important competencies individuals can utilize in order to improve learning progress and critical thinking. Those who employ higher order thinking skills understand how to analyze and evaluate complex information, categorize, manipulate, and connect facts, troubleshoot for solutions, understand concepts, connections, and big picture thinking, problem solve, ideate, and develop insightful reasoning. One of the main 21st century components that teachers want their students to use is higher order thinking. This is when students use complex ways to think about what they are learning. Here, an example for higher order thinking skills activities is using graphic organizers. Graphic organizers provide students with a nice way to frame their thoughts in an organized manner. By drawing diagrams or mind maps, students are able to better connect concepts and see their relationships. This will help students develop a habit of connecting concepts. Next is connecting concepts. Lead students through a process of how to connect one concept to another. By doing this, you are teaching them to connect what they already know with what they are learning. This level of thinking will help students to make connections whenever it is possible, which will help them gain even more understanding. Next is use QARs. Question and answer relationships teach students to label the type of question that is being asked and then use that information to help them formulate an answer. Students must decipher if the answer can be found in a text or online or if they must rely on their own prior knowledge to answer it. For our last topic, we have creative learning. It is the process of acquiring knowledge and abilities using creative processes. In other words, creating theories, tasks, stories, solutions, analysis, and designs as opposed to simply trying to memorize information. Here are the key characteristics of creative learning. First is questioning and challenging. We want to encourage learners to ask why, how, and what if questions. Next is making connections and seeing relationships. We should recognize the significance of learners' prior experience and the existing knowledge they bring to learning. Third is envisaging what might be. This involves learners being able to ask what-if type of questions. And next is exploring and keeping options open. Learners that can play with ideas and experiment, responding intuitively and trusting intuition will develop into creative and imaginative people. Last is reflecting critically on ideas, actions, and outcomes. Creative learners need to be critical thinkers that renew their own progress, invite and act on feedback from peers and teachers, understand what good might look like, and are able to put forward constructive comments, ideas, explanations, and ways of doing things. That ends my video lesson. Thank you for listening.